All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning, 9 a.m. Monday, November 17th, right here on Jocks. Going to get to Tyler Watts here in just a moment, get his thoughts on the Alabama Oklahoma matchup. Before we do that, Greg, tell our listeners about Shannara Flooring.
Well, Funa's guys have done it again. They continue to stockpile inventory in a remarkable way. Just go and check them out, fooinu.com. They have 50,000 square feet of Core-Tech flooring by Shaw in stock at the moment. And as a result of that stock that they've been able to accumulate, they've been able to now go and give that away at a significantly reduced rate. 20 to 40%, you'll be able to find savings when you go with Foo and Shannara Flooring. So, if you're thinking about making some changes to your floors, highly recommend you call Shannara Flooring and get the core tech that Foo has right now. So remember Shannara Flooring. When you want core tech, call who? Call Foo. Call Shannara Flooring at 205-518-6423 or go online at fooandyou.com.
Tyler Watts, former Alabama quarterback, member of the radio broadcast team, joining us now on the Higginbotham hotline. The turnovers were obviously problematic, Tyler, and my biggest issue with those was it allowed Oklahoma to continue to play their style game, which was going to be aggressive on defense and not have to be high risk offensively. After the turnovers, what did you take away from that game as maybe your biggest concern for this team moving forward?
Oh, let's start with the negatives. Obviously, the ball security was the biggest issue. We had all also put the ball on the ground a couple more times. However, the positive of that was after Ryan Williams fumbled his ball, every time he came even close to having contact, he was securing the ball going down to the ground, not fighting for extra yardage. So he learned his lesson. And hopefully that's a positive that you can take moving forward, because I think we all think that this football team, if they win the turnover battle or at least even in the turnover battle, the way the offense potentially has the ability to move the ball, you're going to find ways to put points on the board and be able to separate yourselves. Special teams obviously continues to be a huge concern with your inability to flip field position the way that Oklahoma was and play with the opponents back to their own end zone. But defensively, I like what we're doing. I mean, we were tough all afternoon, really made it tough for Oklahoma. Of course, I think their longest drive was only 40 or 50 yards all evening long. So the defensively, I thought we played great. Did a good job of open field tackling. You gave up a couple of plays here and there, but kept everything in front, which is what you're expecting. But 17 points off of turnovers was just a backbreaker in this ball game, because there was no way the Oklahoma offense was going to be able to win that game on their own.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's obviously a disappointing game for sure, but it's out of character. If this was something that was a continuous problem where they were sloppy with ball security, I'd be far more concerned. I feel like that's everyone's reaction. It's like, all right, this is the anomaly game where you're sloppy with the football, you almost steal it anyways. It is what it is. So how do you think the team is feeling about this one? Because these are the ones to me that hurt maybe a little bit more when you had it on your racket and you couldn't finish. So how does the team respond in your eyes?
Well, how they respond is critical. I guarantee they're sick as they can be to their stomachs watching this film of just all the opportunities they have. You know, the pick six occurs when you easily potentially could set up for a field goal. Maybe you make it, maybe you don't. But at least you have an opportunity to put points on the board on that particular drive. Instead, you go down 10-0. But look, I think that this team has a lot of character. I really do. Defensively, you're playing great. Offensively, you know what you're capable of doing. It is an outlier. You learn from it, and hopefully it potentially makes you a better football team. Maybe you get that chip on your shoulder that, in my opinion, you've kind of been lacking since the Tennessee game. You didn't particularly play well versus South Carolina. In all honesty, you didn't play great offensively versus LSU when you left a lot out there on the field. So hopefully they get that chip back on their shoulder on these last two games, and they can make a nice, strong run here and build that confidence once again.
What would you say if someone asked you to describe Ty Simpson's performance against Oklahoma? How would you
Uh,
lay that out?
Thought a lot about this. There was a lot of really good that he did. And let me start off with early in the game when we knew that Oklahoma was going to apply a lot of pressure. They have one of the most aggressive defensive fronts in what they do and can create a lot of problems and have against some other really good offenses. I thought he did an excellent job early on feeling the pressure and hitting his checkdowns. He was hitting Cuevas. He was hitting the backs out of the backfield and taking the 4 and 5 yard gains. But it was a kind of an inconsistent day also. There's a couple times we held on the ball too long and didn't have that ball security. Tried to force some things. I still think sometimes he tries to make the perfect throw instead of just hitting some of these receivers right in the chest on some of the deep ends or even the slant routes and making the defender run through the wide receiver. So, look, Oklahoma you can't take anything away from them. They're really good, and they're going to make it a challenge for you. You have to be perfect. He wasn't perfect all night, but he made a lot of really good plays, and he made a couple of plays I guarantee you he wishes he could have back as soon as he released that ball.
It is one, though, where the misses have gone up just a tick the last couple of weeks. Usually I can look at the fundamentals. The fundamentals look fine. So is there a reason you think that maybe it's just been a touch off the mark the last couple of games for whatever reason?
You have to think some of it is the pressure and the fact that when you're running around like that, golly, at some point you're going to get exhausted. The worst, most egregious one was probably the airmail that he had to Jeremy Bernard across the middle of the field that would have set them up inside the 15-yard line. We may have ended up scoring on that drive. I can't remember, but there's a couple of really bad throws. But, look, he battles. He seems to put the pass behind him and goes out there and competes. Late in the game, it didn't look like his legs were under him. He had a couple of throws where he wasn't really driving it in there. Look, that's going to happen to every quarterback. When you throw the ball 42 times, which I don't think any offensive coordinator wants to have to do, you're going to have your share of balls that fall incomplete.
Tyler Watts joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline, discussing Alabama's loss to Oklahoma over the weekend and what that means moving forward. How much do you lean into what they did last time this year? After Florida State, I know it was ULM, which is kind of interesting that you'll get a similar style opponent before you'll go play in the Iron Bowl, which so much of the postseason will be hinging on that game. But watching how they bounced back last time, watching how they reacted last time, how much do you maybe have some comfort with how they've already dealt with it, that they can do it again?
You certainly hope that is the case because, look, everything is still in front of them, and you don't want to think too big picture. I think this team still needs to just focus on trying to put 4 great quarters together where they play their best football and they are more consistent on both sides of the ball. I think that's where the focus needs to be, and if that's where it is, then the rest of it will take care of itself. But like I said, hopefully they have a chip on their shoulder. Hopefully everybody starts doubting their ability and they kind of circle the wagons in that locker room and get back to the grind of it, of just trying to absolutely dominate your opponent. Because if that's where your focus is, then good things are going to happen.
I think it's funny. I don't know what your reaction's been, but amongst my friends that are obviously diehard Bama fans, there's this massive amount of concern going to Auburn. And I sit there and I keep telling them, guys, why is this any different than every year in the history of college football prior to last year? The Auburn game was always a must win. I don't understand why everyone now is treating it so differently. And while Auburn looked better against Vanderbilt, they're still a team that's 4-6. So why do you think there is so much concern right now about having to go and do what they've always had to do and make the Iron Bowl a must-win game?
Yeah, just too much history down there, Greg. Too many long, burning,
I get it.
Miserable emotions that take place. But in all honesty, this can be a positive for Alabama because if you get a mad on over the last couple of weeks, and especially going down there to Auburn, and you know what you're capable of, it's just a simple matter of playing good football on both sides, taking care of the ball. You got to feel good about your chances. But if you go in there with a mad on and trying to prove something, I think that potentially could go for Alabama's, in Alabama's favor.
Tyler, we appreciate the time as always. Love recapping these games with you. You have just a better feel of the team and their personality. It's going to be interesting to see how they bounce back. We'll discuss that with you again next Monday. Thanks a lot.
Hey, appreciate it, fellas.
All right, Tyler Watts joining us there on the Higginbotham Hotline. So how do you feel about that, Greg, knowing that this team has done it before? They had a similar opponent in front of them. They were able to regroup, able to improve. Does that give you extra confidence that it's feasible they do it again?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to me, the beauty of playing a game like this, like it's supposed to be hard. Like you expect going to Auburn to be very difficult, and it will be. There's no doubt about it. But if you can play your game, you should be in great shape. It remains the same thing remains the same regardless of where the game's at, what it is. If you go into it, what I don't want, the last thing I want from an Alabama fan's perspective, just speaking at it, removing the analyst glasses, fear is not what you want. Like an elevated sense of urgency is what you want. And I'm sensing right now, like there's too much fear and concern. Like, oh man, like so much could be undone if they can't get the job done. Like, no, forget about it. So much can be earned if you go out and make a statement, punch your ticket to the SEC title game, and then you control your own destiny from that point forward. Like to me, I don't know. I want the team to embrace the mentality of the attacker, not the defender. Like that's my biggest concern about the whole deal. Like become the attacker, put Auburn on notice, go play a quality game, a clean football game, take care of the football, be smart offensively, be smart defensively, don't give up big plays, stop the run, like all these things. Like don't take on the mindset of, oh man, I'm concerned about what could happen if we don't win. Like don't try not to lose. Go out and attack. And I think having the Eastern Illinois game between to kind of get things back on track, get into attack mode is the appropriate mindset that you need to have going into the Iron Bowl here. Because if you start trying to play not to lose and play not to make a mistake, that's when you get into trouble. Like you got to put the gas pedal down. And if they can do that, they should be just fine. If they don't and they try to be cautious and they're apprehensive, that's when things become very difficult.
Yeah, and it's just one of those situations that you got to try to remove that all of this negative and understand how much positive potentially still there in front of you. Losses are hard to get over, and I think that's a lot of times why coaches focus so much emphasis on 24-hour rule after wins, because they want to try to help you train your brain to get into that rhythm of no matter what happens in that game, after this amount of time, we move forward to the next game. We got to start focusing on the next task at hand. So don't get too excited and live on some of those wins, whereas hopefully with the losses, your brain's already trained to go ahead and make that move to the next one on whatever hour of whatever day when you begin that process, that you can actually move ahead and go do that. Because it's not easy, it's not fun when you lose a football game. And then trying to just turn that page after a loss, especially after a tough loss like this, also not easy. But nonetheless, has to happen, and still plenty in front of Alabama. Continue giving us your feedback. 800-239-9569, tweet in at Mac and Cube. We're going to go to a break, come back. Other games in the Southeastern Conference. A massive comeback for A&M. A big win for Georgia. Ole Miss holds on. We'll discuss all those and more right after this on Jocks. All right, welcome back in. McElroy, Cubelic in the morning. Glad you're with us. A lot more to get to. 800-239-9569 if you want to get in. Georgia, 35-10 over Texas, and kind of a weird game when you go back and watch it because it didn't look like a start-to-finish dominant win for Georgia. But there were facets of this one that were very impressive with what Georgia did and how they did it. I thought Gunnar Stockton was fantastic in this game. 24-29, 229, 4 touchdowns, 1 pick, ran 6 times for 29 yards and a touchdown. Greg, I don't think people understand the level of difficulty that comes with an offense that asks you to do so much. And I'm watching Gunnar Stockton operate this offense, and they're running fullback belly. They're running like new trap plays that I haven't seen him run all year. He's like 6 and out on some of these little trap plays that they're running. He's running fake quarterback sweep, toss it into the end zone for a touchdown, design quarterback runs, zone read, play action, heavy play action with his back to the defense. He's going under center. Just the operation of everything they ask him to do, I think is an extra reason that I put him on a pedestal right now. And I don't know if a lot of people have the understanding of everything that Bobo's asking of him right now.
Well, it's just not very flashy. You know what I mean? Like, it's not flashy. It's just highly efficient. And that's what I really enjoy about watching Gunnar Stockton play. And answer me this. I mean, as I'm watching these games, and I've gone back now for a couple weeks, and I've watched every throw that Gunnar Stockton's made this year. There are not very many throws that are uncatchable. You know what I mean? Like, almost every single time he throws it, the receiver has a chance. And he's very accurate. And it's not a guy that like looks supernaturally accurate with the way he delivers it. You know, he's got, I don't want to say it's an unorthodox throwing motion, but it's a little bit different than what you'd seen from like a super traditional, high level, highly accurate player. Like he's a little bit more of a muscler when he throws. He's not super flexible, but he always puts the ball where it needs to be, whether it's on the downfields, the intermediates, the underneaths. They're great off play action. I think their commitment to the run game is really helping some of their play action stuff because the bite they get from linebackers is pretty remarkable. My favorite part about this game, though, beyond that of the offense's efficiency, was the killer instinct that Georgia displayed. I mean, the game was tight there now in the third quarter now. I mean, that was a tight football game, and it felt like Texas had momentum. A couple fourth downs, they decide to go for it. They pick up both those conversions. They pay it off for a touchdown. Still at this point, if you're Texas and you're looking at it from their vantage point, it's like, all right, hey, we gave them one drive, guys. Like, we're still in this thing. Offense just scored. We're in good shape. We're going to be just fine. That would be the message probably on the sideline. And then, boom, they immediately steal that possession on the surprise onside kick, go right down the field and score another touchdown. Like, the level of killer instinct, and it's natural, I think, after you create a 2-score advantage in the fourth quarter to kind of let your guard down, to exhale. They did the very opposite. They accelerated. And that, to me, is a fantastic identity to create for your team and something that can really be replicated going forward.
I don't think there's any doubt. Also, too, like when you mentioned the catchable balls from Stockton, I don't feel like that was exactly the case earlier in the season. I feel like, there was a couple who try to fire over the middle of the field and they'd sail on him. And now I do agree with you. And then one little ball after the play action, the little seam out to the tight end where he floats it over the defender, like that was beautiful, man. Like, I mean, that was just gorgeous. And then a couple on, that fake quarterback run that I mentioned. He's got another one off play action out in the flat where the defender's right in his face and he just got to, just find a way to spit that thing out. And he does. Then the touchdown pass, I think it was a little whip route. And, he had to fit that thing in a tight window now. That DB was right there, had a chance to make a play, and he squeezes that thing in. There was another big third down throw on the sideline where it's a kind of a tighter window he had to squeeze it into. I just think he's doing so much right now. And not a lot of people have an appreciation because, like you said, it's not super flashy, but a lot of these fakes, a lot of these reads, a lot of this manipulation that come with the operation of this offense, that's what makes everything else go. And that's what opens up the run game later in games. So I was blown away with what he did, what he put out there, because 35 for 128, it's a decent day on the ground for the team. Not too bad. He added a little bit to that. You saw Frazier get a couple nice runs late. They kind of started to bust a few of those as the game went on. But I'll say this: I came away. This is almost similar to, and maybe this just goes the distance to show kind of Georgia being sort of the standard of the league right now. Almost came away feeling better about Texas. Like already felt pretty good about Georgia. But I felt better about Texas after this loss than I did about them going into this game, because they weren't physically overwhelmed for 4 quarters. At least I didn't feel. Now listen, that run game just wasn't there. It wasn't going to happen. It hadn't been there really for them all year, in my opinion. But I thought Arch looked a little bit more calm. Him being able to sort of quickly get the ball out a couple of times, like when the pressure started coming, he's starting to step up in the pocket and he'll spit it out to the back, or he'll find the tight end quickly. I thought he made a couple high level of difficulty throws in this game. Receivers helped him a little bit. Wingo had a couple nice grabs. DeAndre Moore had the nice catch and run one time. We hadn't heard much from him this year. Emmett Mosley did a couple good things. So I'm not trying to say anything anywhere close to they should have won the game or anything like that. But I thought this game would go the way of Georgia just physically overwhelming them. And I don't really feel like that's how this game was won. Now, I think later in the game it started taking place a little bit. But the middle of that defense held up fairly well for most of the game. I thought a lot of the tackles for loss were more your edge guys and your run-through guys. It wasn't like just the D linemen with their hands in the dirt just running through offensive linemen. And then, too, we know there's going to be some longer developing stuff, some perimeter stuff that Texas is going to try. I thought the Georgia linebackers played really fast in this game. Colin Simmons was good in this game on the edge for Texas, but because of how Gunnar Stockton operated it, he didn't allow Trey Moore, Colin Simmons, Ethan Burke to take over this game, because I think they had that teed up for those guys to be able to wreck shop in the backfield. And because of how the game was called and some of the plays that were called and how Stockton manipulated it, he didn't let them take over.
I've always thought Texas is improving. It's not a game right there. To me, the game was a lot closer than the final score would indicate. But it's a testament to Georgia basically not allowing it to get to that point. You know what I mean? To me, that's the ultimate, the ultimate. I think the matchup as far as personnel, a little closer than a 25-point margin, right? And Texas lost their edge a little bit at the end. They were not playing with the same level of intensity. You could see it pretty clear. But I thought that Texas was vastly improved from what we would have seen from them in a similar situation to last year. So I think that's encouraging. But all things considered, Georgia just has so many pathways to win right now. I liked what they did defensively in this game. I thought they played very well on that side. I thought Texas had way too many. The thing about playing Georgia, you cannot make mistakes. You have no choice but to play a very clean football game. And when I say clean, I mean you can't drop passes. You can't whiff on protections. You can't make mistakes like that. And I thought Texas made way too many mistakes to win the game on the road against Georgia. A game and a matchup that requires perfection, they did not get it. So credit to Georgia, tons of credit to Georgia. They should feel great about where they're at. I think they're peaking at the right time. And I think they have a real difference maker at quarterback. But I also think they have a steadily improving defensive front. I think they have a steadily improving back end. And there's reason to believe that their best football's in front of them. Now, do we have any injury updates on C.J. Allen?
I have not heard, no.
Do we have any injury updates on Christian Miller? They've had some injuries now that I am a little worried about long term. The goal for Georgia should always be to win a national championship, and I am a little worried about a couple of injuries that went down in that game that hopefully won't have a long term effect. But if they do, that could be a problem.
No, there's no doubt, because that's not a D line. It's just been rolling guys in left and right anyway. I do think they're getting good reps from some of the younger guys.
For sure.
I do think 99, 95, I think, are getting in there getting some good reps. 90, Elijah Griffin, I think, is getting some good reps. So they got a couple others that are starting to come on just a little bit. But I mean, 81 gets in there, got good length inside. He's giving them some decent reps. They don't have a lot of numbers there, so no. And I think Christian Miller's been super solid this year.
Very.
Not a big box score guy where you're going to look in there and see all these TFLs, but he makes things happen. He dents the pocket. He forces runs to cut like in bounce, and he's been good. So, and like I said, the linebackers played fast. So C.J. Allen's one of those guys. Not having him, he and Raylan Wilson have arrived on spot for a while, and I think that they would both be big losses. I'm gonna say this too about Georgia quickly before we move on from this game. Um, I did not think Zachariah Branch was going to be this good for this team. I
He's
thought
so
he was
good.
gonna. I thought he was gonna be a kind of a gadget guy. Okay, I thought they'd use him more to just keep safeties honest, to like take your deep shots with him, give him a couple jet sweeps, But like his catch and run has been great for them this year, like way past what I thought it was going to be. It's not that I didn't think he was explosive. I knew he could run. I didn't think he was great. I didn't think he was a great ball catcher, but like I don't know about you, Greg, but he has far exceeded my expectations this season.
Oh, it's not even close. Like he's been outstanding. He's not only is he great in the catch and run, like I knew he'd be good there. I knew he'd provide juice. That was not a concern. My biggest concern is how well round, how polished is he as a down in down out wide receiver.
Right.
And Georgia's a team. I mean, they're an NFL offense. It's a very NFL style attack. So it requires a lot of polish and precision at the wideout spot. And I wasn't sure if you were going to get that. And man, he has delivered that and some. I mean, I think he has been everything you could have possibly wanted and more for this team. You can make a case pound for pound, he's their biggest difference maker, and how he's kind of performed all throughout the year. So great find and great projection, because that's not what he was at SC. And you can say, oh, well, it's easy to tell that he's going to be that guy. Like if you watch his SC tape, he was not the guy he is right now. So
No.
either they're coaching him up like you wouldn't believe, or he's recognizing that it's a contract year, so you're getting the best version of him. But man alive, like you got to feel real excited about what you've seen from him throughout the year.
There's no doubt about it. There's also no doubt about why you need to go see Andrew Sports Medicine if you've had an injury. I've been, my wife's been, multiple members of my family have been, and there's a reason Auburn Athletics hand selected Andrew Sports Medicine's Dr. Benton Immelman and Charles Pitts to serve their team physicians. They provide the highest quality sports medicine care in an effort to keep the Tiger student athletes safe, healthy, and competing at the highest level. If Andrew Sports Medicine is a choice for Auburn Athletics, there's no doubt they should be your family's number one choice for sports medicine and orthopedic care. Andrew Sports Medicine has 7 locations across central Alabama: Birmingham, Coleman, Gardendale, Hoover, Pelham, Trussville. They offer same-day, next-day appointments for acute sports injuries. Visit AndrewSportsMedicine.com today to begin your journey of achieving victory over injury. All right, we will take a break, come back, get to a few more of these SEC games that we haven't discussed just yet next right here on Jocks. Welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Richard Hendrick's going to join us every Monday to discuss college basketball. Before he joins us for his first visit of the season, though, GMAC, tell our listeners about Bromberg's.
Well, Bromberg's is the best time of year to be heading over there. You want to make sure your Christmas shopping is taken care of. You want to make sure gift season, you're well prepared for it. So you can celebrate the gift-giving season with an unforgettable gift from Bromberg's. From dazzling diamonds to designer jewelry to luxury watches and fabulous giftware, there's something for everyone on your list. As Alabama's leading jeweler since 1836, Bromberg's has helped make Christmas wishes come true for multiple generations. And with complimentary gift wrap in their signature silver box, you'll have a gift they'll treasure forever. Visit Bromberg's in Mountain Brook and at the Summit, or shop online at brombergs.com.
All right, Richard Hendricks, former Alabama great, former McDonald's All-American, joining us now on the Higginbotham Hotline. Talk a little college basketball. We'll start doing it every Monday with Richard right here on the show. Since it was yesterday, let's go to the Houston win over Auburn. I think there's still a lot of unknowns about this Auburn basketball team. What do you feel like you now know about them a couple of games in, specifically watching them go toe-to-toe with the number one team in the nation last night?
Well, I definitely think that it shows that Stephen Pearl is off to a pretty good start with his ability to go toe-to-toe, as you mentioned, with Kelvin Sampson and a strong Houston team. An opportunity to beat the number one team with the ball in the last couple possessions. It shows that he has a tough team and he's able to motivate them. Really good teams. I looked at that game, and you come down to the last couple possessions, and you have Tapad Pettiford with an opportunity to win it. It just shows at the level that Houston is defensively. This is a team that leans on the defensive end, and then we get the stops that they need against Auburn. Was really impressive, but it really showed that Stephen Pearl has his program going in the right direction.
Was it a little frustrating to, from your vantage point as a player, to see 3 possessions basically there in the final 30 seconds and not a single shot gets attempted? I mean, because I was like, goodness gracious, they can't even get a shot off. Now, respect to Houston for playing the way they played. And some people thought it should have been a foul in the last play or whatnot. I don't know. I mean, it's the last play. Are they really going to call a foul there? Probably not. So is that something that you should be concerned about, the inability to find a shot there at the end?
Well, I thought it was something to me to see that Tahad Pettiford, who's a lefty, the play design to see him go to his right. Now, I know he's a really good player and a finisher with both hands, and some players do have a preference to go to their weak hand to set things up. But the play design to go ball screen action to get to your right hand is a left-handed shooter. I thought it was interesting that he'd elected to use that type of positioning, and I thought it did result, quite frankly, in getting your shot blocked. The last the shot in the game that goes to Keyshawn Murphy on the alley-oop attempt, I think it was a good no call. I think he got a rejection from the backside. But then again, I mean, this is a team that I think had a chance to win that game. The crowd support in Birmingham seemed like it was rocking in that building, and that would have been a signature win for Stephen Pearl and Auburn. But I think at the same time, coming up short, they put the rest of the league on notice that they are going to be a team to reckon with.
Did you come away thinking, I know they're going to have a smaller lineup this year. Did you come away from that game thinking, okay, physically, front line, like they'll be okay? They're going to be able to survive with what they have?
Well, I definitely think they don't have the interior presence that they had last year with Janai Broome and Dylan Cardwell. And when you have that type of presence, you're obviously able to take the body blows and dish it out for the duration of the season. But Keyshawn Hall can be a mismatch with his guard-type skills. When he can face up, he can also try to take it inside, a double-double, 20 points, 11 rebounds, and what he's doing. And Keyshawn Murphy will start to show his ability as well, coming over from Mississippi State. We've seen it last year. He was able to show a little bit of a outside game to match his inside game at his height and length. So I don't think Auburn has anything to worry about as far as their front line, particularly when you talk about in today's game, you only see a few teams that have strong interior presences and are able to play from inside out. So in the long haul, I think they'll be fine.
And when you look at Alabama and the performance to Purdue, look, I was watching it and I'm sitting there thinking, like, goodness, okay, they're shooting 50+% from 3, and yet we're tied. You know what I mean? Like, this is concerning. Like, can we keep this up? So do you have to find a little more balance and maybe not be so heavily reliant on the three? Like, what do you take kind of from that performance and where you'd like to see them grow?
Well, I personally think you should, but maybe it's a little bit because I have a bias towards interior players. But at the same time, as I touched on with Auburn and not playing against teams that have that type of presence, I think Alabama is a team that is built to win a lot of games. But outside of playing a handful of teams that will have strong interior plays, just like Purdue, Florida's another one. Auburn was one in years past. We'll see how they'll develop. Tennessee will play a tough grind out style with big bigs on the inside who can bang and make it tough for you. Outside of those top teams that do have the personnel, Duke is another one. I think Alabama can beat anybody in the country. But if you're talking about taking the program to the next level of winning the national championship, you're going to have a favorable draw, or you're going to have to be able to beat one of those teams, and you're going to have to stay hot from the three-point line the entire game, which is hard to do. 44 threes. Alabama only made 16 at one point in the game. I believe they shot, I think it was 15 threes in a row, if I'm not mistaken. So you're kind of making your offense a little bit one-dimensional, and it's one of those things where if you do have some balance with the inside play, and more importantly, the interior play that can allow you to have offensive rebounding and control the boards, it gives you another element to win games when you're not necessarily shooting well from the outside. They got pounded on the glass 52-28 to Purdue. And Purdue, like I said, is a team that's built to play from the inside out, which will always give Alabama problems. But it definitely is an area, to me, that you're going to have to figure out some things on the inside to be effective offensively and defensively.
Richard, assess the league for us quickly because we're a couple weeks in here. You've been able to see most of the teams in different settings against different levels of competition. Sort of give us your 1,000-foot view of the Southeastern Conference right now.
Well, you got to start with the defending national champions in Florida. Now, this is a totally different Florida team. They don't have Walter Clayton Jr., Will Richard, Elijah Martin. Those three senior guards were three of the top guards that they had in the country last year. They now have Xavion Lee, who transferred in from Princeton, and Boogie Flan, who transferred from Arkansas. Two different guards. They play differently, not as physical. They got elite speed. But the front line that Florida has is probably the best in the country. I will say it is the best in the country with Thomas Houck, Micah Hanlogden, Ruben Chinyelu, and Alex Condon, who many people have as a first-team All-SEC performer. Now, this is a team that can beat you in many ways, but they're going to rely heavily on interior play. They can pass amongst the bigs inside. They can rebound, and they can just make you draw fouls to make the game very, very tough. Arkansas and Coach Kyle looks to be poised to have a good year in the second year. Now, they had a really tough game in the last one, only won by 4 against Sanford. Lenny Acup showed what he's doing here with the Sanford job on his first year in the program. But Arkansas has talent all across the board. They're big up front. They have big-time freshmen in Malik Thomas and Darius Acup Jr., so they're another team you're going to have to watch out for. I think when you look around the league, we touched a little bit on Auburn. Vanderbilt is another team that stands out. Mark Barrington in year number 2. You're going to have to respect the style of play in which they do. They'll be scrappy. They'll play defensively. They'll switch some things and throw out a lot of different looks at you, but they're going to be tough. Tennessee is another one. Nate Ament, he's one of the top freshmen in the league. You might be able to see a little bit of Kevin Durant in his game. Maybe not as athletic, but, Kevin Durant played for Rick Barnes. He's going to utilize him in that same way, posting up, shooting from the outside in an all-around game, and you have to expect the Vols to be physical totally. But the SEC will be a talented league, not quite as deep and as strong as it was last year, but it will definitely be a fun season to watch with a lot of really good teams.
Man, it's cool stuff. Richard, we appreciate the time. We're going to have you every Monday. Talking college hoops, always appreciate you. What games are you on this week?
Well, I start on the Alabama women's side. I got Alabama women's basketball versus Alabama A&M tonight on the Plus, and then I'll have another women's game with Vanderbilt taking on Alabama State later on in the week, and then we'll get back to it where I will actually be on the call on the SEC-ACC showdown with Alabama versus Clemson, I believe, on December 3rd. So looking forward to all of the action and being on the call. It's been a lot of fun, and I'm glad basketball season's here.
Let's go. We appreciate it, Richard. We'll talk to you next Monday, man. Have a good week.
Thank you, guys.
There you go. Richard Hendricks joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline, talking a little college basketball. It's here. So, can confirm. Got texts that certain people are frustrated with that segment. Don't really care what they think because they have their own show and they can go do that then. If you're frustrated with how you're feeling, can go to Game Day Men's Health. It's easy. Go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com right now. Sign up for the free consultation, free PSA test, free testosterone test. Then they'll get the baseline of your health, let you know what programs they have that could potentially help you out. The peptides are in stock now, weight loss programs. They can help you with all that at Game Day Men's Health. Save 10% on any service that they offer at Game Day Men's Health by mentioning Mac and Cube, and you walk in the front door. Holistic approach to health and wellness, minimal upfront costs from all the programs that they offer. That sets them apart from a lot of other people. Now open in Trustville. Go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com to get started today. All right, when we come back, get you some bad box scores of the day. Talk a little more SEC football next, right here on Jocks. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning, 1047, Monday, November 17th, right here on Jocks. We will keep rolling along with some of the other SEC games across the weekend. I mentioned Georgia 35-10 over Texas. Georgia gets to 9-1, Texas 7-3. Florida goes down to Ole Miss. Put up a good fight, though. Stayed competitive in this game. And after the second half of Kentucky, Greg, I didn't know if we were going to get that. Because it felt like first half against Kentucky, pretty good for most of it. Then a couple picks. Then you bench Lagway, and it's kind of like, oh, no. They didn't really seem interested in the second half against the Wildcats. I wasn't sure we were going to get this kind of fight. But Ole Miss is able to pull it out. 34-24, they get the win. They're 10-1. Florida goes to 3-7. But I will tell you this. Walking out of this game, watching the film, Ole Miss got some protection problems. Now, Ron Roberts had a plan. He drew up some really nice pressures. But Ole Miss is going to have to get some things sorted out because they're going to see similar looks to this down the road, and they've got to get that part figured out if they're going to continue to win.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, first of all, Florida's a tough team to play against. Like, if you get them on the wrong day, like, they have dudes now. Like, that's a good roster. I mean, if you look at their power ratings and things like that, like, they're still a really good football team. I know their record wouldn't reflect that, but they have good players. So it was really more about what kind of effort were you going to get. That was pretty much it. Because if you got good effort, it was going to be a fight. If they mailed it in, you're in good shape. Well, I thought you got some decent effort from Florida in this game. And watching it back, I wasn't as concerned about the protection issues as much as I was encouraged by what I saw in some of the run game. Like there was a couple times where I felt like they actually moved some guys. And I think this run game has been a little bit of smoke and mirrors. And I think their back's elite, obviously. But how'd you think they fared in the run game? Because while I am a little concerned about the protection, I feel like my concerns were kind of minimized by some of the growth I've now seen with them running the football.
It's coming along. It's getting a little better. It helps having Kewan Lacey, but the O-line is straining a little bit more. Yeah, they have a little better feel for it than they have, and like I said, a little more strain, a little more effort. Tight ends are helping some. I think mobile quarterback helps a lot too with what it does to the backside of some of those runs. But yeah, it's definitely better. It's better than it was earlier in the year from the offensive line's perspective, and if it's something they can lean on, it's going to be huge down the stretch because they're going to need that. Arkansas goes down to LSU, competitive game, 23-22. Sloppy. I don't really know what else to say. I mean, Van Buren's making some throws that shouldn't even be attempted. Taylor Green turns it over a couple of times. I tell you, I did love the Arkansas run game. I think I saw 4 SEC teams run fullback belly this week. I'm almost positive it was 4. Georgia ran it. I want to say Texas ran it.
Oklahoma ran it.
Arkansas ran it. Did South Carolina run it? One of those two teams. I mean, like we are back.
South Carolina didn't run it.
We're back. We got 4 teams in the SEC running fullback belly. We are going full 1989 right now. Like we are here.
Honestly, there was more. I saw a little more I formation in this game. Pro style I in college football this weekend, and maybe it was just front of mind. There's a lot of pro, and Bama ran it. I mean, there's a lot of pro style I, just leads, just some things like that. I thought it's coming back. It's coming. It always does. These things are cyclical, but I think traditional 21 personnel, 12 personnel with the tight end being the fullback, like that might have a place here moving forward.
Nonetheless, Arkansas does get that win under interim coach Frank Wilson. They're now 6-4. LSU gets the win. Arkansas goes to 2-8.
Yeah.
You barely mentioned their South Carolina and A&M. We're going to spend some time on that one tomorrow. But I was talking to Eli Drinkwitz about this on the field before our game, and he's like, "Man, how about A&M coming back in this and that?" And I said, "How do you make yourself put the ball in the air in the second half?" He's like, "Man, you just got to sometimes you got to keep running your offense and this and that." And I'm just like, why don't people just? I don't want to say sit on a lead anymore, but why are teams afraid to just go out there and do everything in their power to milk the clock against a team that's obviously better than they are? Like I don't understand it. And the amount of times that Lenore Sellers is running around, throwing the football, I don't know, Greg. Maybe it makes sense to you, but I'm sorry, it doesn't make sense to me. It just doesn't. Like you got to get out there and steal a win, man. And I didn't feel like the way they called that game in the second half gave them a great chance to do that.
Well, the problem is it all really started on the first drive of the second half. And they got stoned on 4th and 1, which, by the way, they picked that up. I think they win the game. I know it's impossible to say that. Look, ifs and buts maybe, but I think if they pick that up, that means they probably get points there in the first drive of the second half, and it might be all she wrote. But they couldn't manufacture those, So they get stoned there. They already gave up a 4th and 12 conversion on the drive before that led to points for A&M. So it already felt like they were kind of in retreat mode, but I feel like that 4th and 1 stop, that's what kind of broke their back a bit. And granted, it was 30 to 10 at that point, so it wasn't like, things were comfortable, but that's what kind of broke them. And then every time they had a 4th down and A&M converted, they literally scored like the very next play. As soon as A&M would get into a 1st and 20 because of a first down hold or a penalty, or a 2nd and 18, or 2nd and 8, they get a hold. It's a penalty. Now it's 2nd and 18. Like the very next play, they get every yard back. Like it was a strange game. I came out of it thinking that A&M's defense, like I anticipated A&M's defense looking terrible. But if you really look at it, it was 2 plays on offense. They had the one throw down the left sideline for the touchdown on 3rd and whatever to Vandrevis Jacobs. And they had the catch and run by Nick Harbor. Other than that, it's not like South Carolina was able to consistently manufacture drives. They had maybe 2 really good, well-executed drives in the game, and they had 2 really big plays. So, and of course, they had the fumble return to the house. So it wasn't as bad defensively as I anticipated, but offensively, you can kind of see when A&M revs their engine, man, they become very difficult to defend.
There's no doubt. And it's, I think a lot of folks, what was happening, what wasn't going on. I mean, there were missed throws. There were drops by A&M. A&M had like 4 bad drops in the first half of that game. They didn't commit to the run game in the first half. I mean, I don't think that there were like these massive adjustments that people think that there were on the A&M part of it. I do think they came out in the second half and said, all right, we're going to run the football. Like that's going to happen first. They got that going and then built off that. And obviously South Carolina mistakes helped lead to that comeback, which was gigantic. But at the end of the day, I just don't know. I look at that and say, I'm not coming out and throwing the football. I mean, until they, you had the luxury, Greg, of going out and waiting for them to, until they cut it to 10 or 14 points, and then you could start throwing the ball again. Like I got to get as much clock run as I can early in that second half, and I didn't feel like South Carolina did that. Maybe it's just me and how I would do it, but I don't know. Your CBD store has products that help you better your daily routine. If it's better focus, more energy, a better night's sleep, your CBD store has products that can help you out today. First company to have USDA certified organic oil supplements that have the stamp seal on their products, so they're going to meet and achieve a certain set of standards and tests to be signed off on. Your CBD store, 3 locations, Highway 280 by Bailey Brothers, 150 by the Cajun Cleaver, Trustful just off 459. Your CBD store where good health hits home. Appreciate Scott Myers revealing the Alabama Sports Hall of Fame inductees today. Paul Feinbaum, Tyler Watts, Richard Hendricks. We're back tomorrow. 3-man front is coming up next.